Welcome to another edition of Coffee with the Goose. You know, we talk about everything that's irritating, fascinating, and, well, how's that? Interesting, fascinating? Oh, I forget. We try and keep it fascinating. How's that? Irritating? Yeah, I'll look it up next time. Needless to say, I need some more of this, right? That's my PED. My coffee, as you know, very strong, like my opinion, and got some creamer in there to make it sweet, just like me. And no, it doesn't help with my dementia. Alleged dementia. And yes, it's real coffee. Thanks for asking. We'll get serious during this edition of Coffee with the Goose. We mourn the passing of one of the all-time great fighters, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. You know, we use these terms a lot, and we don't really mean it. Oh, he's great, he's a legend, he's an icon. All of that applies to Marvelous Marvin Hagler. And for those of you who don't know much about him, I'm here to fill you in, okay? Marvin Hagler just passed away at the age of 66. And, you know, I've been watching boxing for a long time, and I remember watching Marvelous Marvin fight, especially back in the 80s. He was a middleweight champion for 7 or 8 years, 1980 to 87. That is the longest continuous span for a middleweight title holder in the history of boxing. He defended his belt 12 times successfully. Now, how did Marvin Hagler get started? By the way, I think he's from Brockton, Massachusetts, which is also the birthplace of Rocky Marciano, the legendary heavyweight champion. Boys in Boston can fight. Hagler, when he was a youngster, he got beat up by somebody with all his friends watching, and he was humiliated. And he became a boxer, and they crossed paths again, and Marvin beat the snot out of him as an amateur, I believe. Marvin, in his amateur career, was 55-1. 55-1 as an amateur. As a professional fighter, he had a record of 62 wins, 3 losses, and 2 draws. Of those 62 wins, 52 of them were TKOs or KOs. He was a beast in the ring. He was the Fighter of the Year twice. This sounds a lot like Manny Pacquiao's career, actually. Fighter of the Year twice and Fighter of the Decade. Of those 3 defeats, he avenged one of them. He ended his career in 1987 on kind of a sad note. I watched this fight. It was a legendary battle between 2 of the all-time greats, Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard. Again, 1987. And there's a lot of, again, boxing is crooked in many ways and corrupt in many ways. And a lot of this has to do with the negotiations. At that time, Sugar Ray Leonard was retired for a short period of time. I mean, he was still, at the top of his game. And, Hagler, as with Pacquiao and, Floyd Mayweather, he wanted this fight badly, and he gave up all the cards in the negotiations. Went for heavier gloves. Instead of 8-ounce gloves, they were 10-ounce gloves. Sugar Ray Leonard got his way with a bigger ring so he could run. He's a lot like Floyd Mayweather, although I really shouldn't bring Floyd's name into this, because Sugar Ray Leonard would stand and fight you. Floyd wouldn't, at least during the second half of his career. And so they ended up fighting, and it was a split decision, and the decision went to Sugar Ray Leonard. And forgive me if I'm bringing up memories. I've gotten over it, okay? It reminds me of crooked judges in Pacquiao's career. He was robbed 2 or 3 times, and that was the case with Marvin Hagler. One of the judges scored it 118 to 110. Which is a clear victory, no problem for Sugar Ray Leonard. Well, no, that was not accurate at all. The other 2 judges scored it 115, 113, one for Hagler, one for Leonard. So it was corruption. You accept losses. You're a big boy if you're a boxer, but this one left a bad taste in my mouth. It was just too bad that it went that way. And Hagler, he quit after that. And what a shame, because he was, again, one of the all-time greats. He took on all comers, and KO'd most of them. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Again, we mourn the loss of the great boxing icon from the Boston area, only 66 years old, and he brought us many, many years of great bouts and great victories. Again, Fighter of the Year twice and Fighter of the Decade once. Maybe the greatest middleweight champion in the history of boxing. And that's saying something, but the facts bear me out. Only 3 losses. One of them disputed, and one of them he avenged. Marvin Marvis Hagler, we'll miss you. Great fighter, and we heard from many of the great modern day fighters, Manny Pacquiao included, sending his condolences to Marvelous Marvin Hagler's wife and widow, saying, what a great guy he was, number one, what a great fighter he was, number two, and he was just a decent guy. And that's really the most important thing. We, unfortunately, with celebrities and politicians and athletes, we can't say that very much anymore. But with Marvelous Marvin Hagler, that was definitely the case. A great guy, a great champion, and he set the bar up high for all other fighters. Hardly anybody will be able to reach those heights again. Hagler, who do you compare with Marvelous Marvin Hagler? Very few fighters have that ability, the killer instinct, the great skills, the never say die attitude, and just out and out toughness. I use Manny Pacquiao's name, not because I'm just a Pacquiao fan. I'm a Pacroid, Pactard, or anything like that. He's one of the all-time greats too, and those two were very similar. Like Hagler, Pacquiao has taken on all comers and beat most of them. Like Hagler, he was robbed a couple times, but didn't lose any sleep over it. That's just the sport. And like Hagler, Pacquiao was Fighter of the Year twice and Fighter of the Decade once. So a great fighter. They don't come around very often. But Marvelous Marvin Hagler was one of the all-time greats. Rest in peace, Marvelous Marvin. We'll miss you. And for all of you fighters or would-be fighters, and you're looking for a role model or somebody to, who would set a great example for you as a fighter, and if you want to be a champion, there's the guy. Look him up on YouTube, and you'll see some great fights and a great gentleman as well. Marvelous Marvin Hagler has passed away at the age of 66. Let me know what you think. I'd love to get your comments. You guys are a very knowledgeable group. You always give me some great opinions, and many times I learn a few things. And I know a lot of you folks have watched Marvelous Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard fight back in the 1980s, and I want to hear what you have to say. I know you miss great fighters like that just as I do. That's it for this edition of Coffee with the Goose. We'll talk more boxing very soon. Take care.